Hi, Thomas here. Logic Pro 12 has been out for a few days now, and I've had some time to test it properly. In this video, I want to take my time and walk you through the main new features. I'll explain what's changed, how these features actually work, and who they're useful for in real music making situations. If you are considering updating or you've already updated and want to understand what's new, this video will give you a solid overview. Okay, so let's begin. Before we look at any features, there are a few important things to know. Logic Pro 12 requires macOS 15.6 or later. So if you're on an older system, especially an older Intel Mac, double-check compatibility before updating. I also strongly recommend backing up your existing Logic Pro app. All you need to do is duplicate the Logic Pro app in your Applications folder and rename it with a version number, or drag a copy to your desktop or another folder before you update. That way, if anything does not behave as expected, you can easily roll back. This is especially important early on with major updates. As you can see, I've done this with many older Logic Pro app versions in the past, just in case there was an issue with the newer version, or in case I ever needed to go back and revisit them, which honestly is very rare. Okay, let's now have a look at the new features of Logic Pro 12. Chord ID. Chord ID is easily the biggest new feature in Logic Pro 12. At a basic level, Chord ID analyzes the harmony in a region and writes those chords into the chord track. This works with MIDI chord regions, Apple loops, any harmonic audio recording or instrument, for example guitar or piano, or extracted stems. Let me show you the basic workflow first. So I'll select a region that contains harmony. In this case, I have a retro synth part where I recorded in some chords. Let's just hit this back. Now let's show the global tracks by clicking this button up here, or by using the key command G. Now I'll drag this region up into the chord track area. Logic analyzes the harmony and writes the chord progression. This can take a few moments, depending on the length and complexity of the region. So you can see here it says the chords are A minor, G, F, and G, which is correct. Let me just close the editor now so you have a bit more space. One thing to mention, don't just trust the results blindly. Always check where the chord starts, where the chord ends, and whether the chord changes line up musically. If a chord starts early or late, fix it. That one step alone massively improves everything that follows. So why does Chord ID matter so much? Before Chord ID, if you dragged in a loop or recording, you had two choices: manually work out the chords, or ignore the chord track entirely. Now you can go from sound to structure in seconds. This is huge if you work with loops, you sketch ideas quickly, you collaborate with musicians who send rough recordings, or you're still building confidence with harmony. Once the chord track is correct, you can start adding session players immediately. Just to show you what I mean, let's start with a synth bass. We'll go over these new synth session players soon, but let's quickly add one. So let's create a new track with this plus button up here, and let's choose a bass player session player. And for the style, let's choose 808 bass. Let's just hide the global track so we have a bit more space. And you can see up here, it displays the chord names as well. Let's play this back and you'll be able to notice that the bass notes are changing with the chords. Okay, let's now add another session player instrument. Let's add one that plays some chords. So let's create a new track, and let's choose session player keyboard player. And for the style, let's choose rhythmic chords. Okay, let's play this back, and you'll be able to hear that the chords in this keyboard session player are the same chords in the chord track. Okay, let's now add a session drummer. Again, let's create a new track, and let's select drummer under session player, and let's choose an electronic drummer. For this example, let's choose synth pop. Okay, let's hit this back. Of course, we can adjust the settings in the session player, but even without doing that, it already sounds pretty good to me, and the session bass and keyboard player are following the parts created by the Chord ID. Okay, let's now have a closer look at the new session synth players. These are inside the existing keyboard player and bass player session players. These are designed to follow the chord track as I just demonstrated. Inside the keyboard player, you now have synth styles, such as rhythmic chords and modulation pad. And we also have the simple pad that we had in the previous version of Logic Pro. Let's now hear the modulation pad. And I'll adjust some of these settings during playback. So during playback, I just adjusted the complexity, intensity, and LFO rate dial here. I will be covering all of this in detail though in my complete Logic Pro course, so if you want to know exactly how these session players work, I recommend checking out this course, and these updates will be live soon. Okay, let's now have a look at the session synth player for bass. Inside the session bass player, you now have pump bass, 808 bass, and sequence bass. Each one is designed for a different role. Pump bass focuses on rhythmic movements rather than notes. 808 bass focuses on long notes and slides. And sequence bass creates repeating patterns that can adapt to chord changes. I'll just play these back with the other instruments as well, so you can hear the chord changes. Again, this is a big advantage that these follow the chord changes automatically. With these, you can focus on feel and tone instead of manually programming every note from scratch. Another important update is the Sound Library Manager. On Mac, this now matches the iPad-style interface. With these, you can now preview sound packs, see what content is included, download only what you need, and delete packs you're not using. If you work on a laptop or manage storage carefully, this is a big quality of life improvement. You can access the sound library by going to Logic Pro, Sound Library. From here, you can install packs that you haven't downloaded yet. I've actually downloaded all these packs already, but you can see here I haven't updated this pack, so I can click here to update this pack. And you can see now it's installed. You can also preview the packs, and you can delete the packs if you're not using them to save some space, as some of these packs can be quite large. There's also a new Sound Library tab under Logic Pro, Settings and General, and you can see it's over here on the right. This lets you choose where your sound library is stored, which is really useful if you're low in internal storage and you want to use an external SSD. Alongside the headline features, Logic Pro 12 also includes a number of smaller improvements. These are the kinds of changes you really notice once you've been using the update for a while. I'll briefly show you what's new here. Step sequencer improvements. First, there are some useful updates to the step sequencer. You now have more powerful randomization options, both at the pattern level and the individual row level. Okay, let's start with a simple example. Here I'm using the drum kit designer and I have a basic pattern with a kick, snare and hi-hats. Nothing complex. So you'll notice that each row here has its own randomization button. When I click this, Logic generates a new variation for that row. For example, let's press this button for the hand claps. The important thing is this is meant to be a starting point, not a finished pattern. You're not expected to keep the pattern exactly as Logic generates it. You can edit, remove, or adjust anything afterwards. You can also clear individual rows using the clear button next to the randomization button. There's also an option to randomize the entire pattern at once, but if you randomize all the steps, it can sound quite chaotic. However, if you select one of the edit mode selectors up here, you can apply randomization to the entire pattern, but only for that specific parameter, like velocity in this case. So let's do this now. And again, we can set this all back to default by pressing the delete button next to it. For now though, let's go back to step on off. Randomization isn't limited to one note placement. If I open a drop down for a row, you can see I can randomize parameters like velocity, note repeat, and other step values. For example, I can randomize the velocity of the hi-hat to add some subtle human feel. And we can do this by pressing this button here. If I don't like the results, I can reset it back to the default. If we right-click or control-click on this velocity random button, we can set a range for the velocity to randomize. So if we change mode from offset to range, we can change the range here. Right now it's from 1 to 127, which is quite wide. Let's now change this from 90 to 110. Now when we randomize this, the velocity will be between 90 and 110. This keeps things musical and avoids extreme results while still adding variation. We can also adjust the probability of steps appearing. So let's right-click on this randomize button for the hand claps. And here you can see we can change the probability. So if I change this to 70 and I click this randomize button, there'll be a lot more of these steps. And if I change this to 15, there'll be a lot less. The same applies to the other parameters as well. There are also new playback modes in the step sequencer, which change how patterns are read. Previously, we had 4 modes, and now we have 3 new ones. These playback modes don't change the notes themselves, instead they change the order and direction in which the steps are played. For example, some modes move forward and backwards through the patterns, while others play steps in a more unpredictable order. These can be really helpful for creating movement and variation, especially in melodic or textural patterns. It's worth saying that this isn't something you necessarily need on every drum pattern, but for synth lines, arpeggiated parts, or effects patterns, these new modes can help things feel less repetitive without adding more notes. I'll cover these playback modes in detail in my complete Logic Pro course, which I'm currently updating. Okay, moving on. Another small but practical update is snap to scale. This allows notes in the piano roll to snap to the scale you've chosen, rather than just snapping to the grid. This can be helpful if you're still learning music theory, you're experimenting with ideas quickly, or you want to avoid obvious wrong notes while sketching. It doesn't replace learning scales, but it does reduce friction when you're trying ideas out. All you need to do is choose a scale you want to use and enable snap to scale. So for example, let's choose G and major. And now check snap to scale. G major includes the note F sharp, so if I try to add an F or F natural, Logic will automatically move it to F sharp. This can be really useful if you're new to music theory or you want to experiment with less common scales. You're not just limited to major and minor scales, there are plenty of other scale options to choose from as well. By the way, you can always turn off snap to scale when you want full control. For example, now I can add F or F natural. So that's an overview of what's new in Logic Pro 12. I'm currently adding detailed lessons on these Logic Pro 12 features to my complete Logic Pro course. I'll go much deeper into the main features, including Chord ID and the new Synth session players. If you want access to the course, along with all upcoming updates as I release them, I'll put a link in the description. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.